Hey, Mike Kozak, what caliber pistol are you carrying?
Besides these fists, is a fist a legal form of weaponry?
Are you packing a Magnum? Because if you're smuggling a hog, you should check out the Allegiance Holsters Mankini. Oh. But if you have a subcompact 9mm like Mike Kozak here,
My little fist. Me and Trump, we got these small hands.
get yourself an inside the waistband holster from AllegianceHolsters.com and use code TNW10 at checkout to save yourself a little bit of shipping. And then we'll talk about our best friend Tyler Stanaway and Vanessa Stanaway, who run the Compassionate Viking podcast, and I think their website is compassionateviking.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they're up to so much fascinating shit. I don't even know where to start.
If you want a kid that's cool,
Yeah.
that knows how to identify forestry, foraging foods.
Yeah, which plants he can eat, which ones will get him high,
growing,
which animals.
No, not for your kid. High on the spirit, right? Yeah. But just the diversity of things that they do, it's out of control. It's cool.
They're just fascinating.
I wish I went
people.
to their camp as a kid.
I know, right? CompassionateViking.com. And then finally, we've got my own Training Northwest here in Granite Falls, Washington. And if you're watching world events, you might want to start thinking about taking care of your own safety and security. I always like to say Maslow's triangle or pyramid hierarchy of needs. The base of the pyramid is food, water, shelter, and safety. So if you can't provide your own safety, do you really have the other three? And given current events, you might want to start taking matters into your own hands. Come see us for a firearms course. You can find those at trainingnorthwestllc.com. The 2024 schedule will be released in January. And until then, you can always book a private range session. Get a hold of me at trainingnorthwest@protonmail.com.
Hey, say I want to buy a optic.
Ooh, like from Vortex?
Yeah.
Hey, we're a dealer.
Is there a way I could also, put it on my gun and try and zero it?
Yes, there is. All right. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I forgot about it. We are a Vortex Optics dealer, and if you are local here, if you buy an optic from us, you get a free range session to come out, get it zeroed on your gun, because we do believe in readiness, and I don't want you guys to have a brand new optic sitting on the shelf because you didn't get a chance to get to the range and get it zeroed. I think that's all the promos.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This might go down as my favorite episode to date.
This was a very good one. We had our good friend Christy on.
Yep.
Christy, you want to say a little hi on nature?
What's up, guys?
There we go. There she is herself. We talked about, life.
Yeah.
Just how to
the
live
evils
life.
of social media, the seasons of your life, kind of discovering who you are and how, and then we tied it all together with how social media can affect that.
Yep. You have to this is one of those ones that's like, this is ear candy, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Ear candy.
Ear candy.
Get
Put
yourself,
it in there.
Yeah, get yourselves an edible and enjoy. And away we go.
Yes.
Captain Bullshit. Back on the mats.
That's funny because I didn't get it at first and then immediately hit.
Should have brought the nose.
I know, right?
I should have brought the nose.
All right, next time.
Next
Mandatory.
time.
Yep.
That's a good cover photo for the episode, is you and the nose and the wig, maybe.
I have it somewhere. I need to bring it because I haven't done a Bullshit the Clown piece of content in quite a while. So
It needs to come back. I said it last time. I still stand for it.
I know it needs to come back. I didn't know it made such an impression.
Yeah, I think a lot about it. I'm going to be honest.
No. Don't look at me. I am flat. I got my ass kicked at practice tonight.
By who?
By you.
What?
By literally everybody I rolled with.
Yeah, same here.
And I even stipulated that, hey, my back is still fucked up, so I'm going, 50, 60%. And so it was not difficult rolls, and I still got my ass kicked.
Nobody cared.
Yeah. Well, no, they were still going slow, but they still beat me up.
Yeah.
My favorite's when you're like, my wrist really hurts, so I'm going to go slow. And 30 seconds into
you realize you're not going
double-legging someone. You're like, wait, what am I doing? I thought I was going slow.
Yeah.
This agreement with myself isn't working.
Yeah.
Even when I've tennis balled my hand, taped it to a tennis ball and been like, I got to chill. and I had a full send duct tape tennis ball in my
That's
hand.
right. I remember
And I
that.
still would roll.
That's right.
Yeah.
Didn't someone roll on your hand?
Yes, that was really bad. That hurt.
While the tennis ball was taped to
No,
it?
that was why the tennis ball.
Oh, I
was-
gotcha. Okay.
I-
Somebody rolled up on your wrist.
Yeah, I was. We were drilling, and I was
Yeah.
posted with my hand on the ground. I know people can't see this, but it was basically just like using your hand to support your body. We were just drilling.
Yeah.
They rolled into it and rolled straight into the thumb
Your
joint.
drilling partner or like another tandem?
Another
Oh,
person.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it just was rough.
My right elbow is still not right because same scenario, whatever drilling we were doing, I think I was in mount, and I posted my right hand out, and then one of the other drilling partners, like, they didn't even bump into it hard, but my elbow was locked out, and it took it kind of sideways, and now to this day, like, I'm constantly like kind of flexing. Yeah, exactly. Like trying to click that ligament back into place.
Yeah.
I have a friend. Oh, man, here we go. So I have a friend, and he jumped out of a car, and he got ran over by the back wheels and stuff. And I'm like,
We all have that friend.
Yeah, we all have that friend. And I was very concerned. I'm like, is everything okay? I mean, is everything working? And he's like, yeah, I just click a lot when I go upstairs. But other than that, I'm completely fine. And he said it like I was the idiot. I'm like, you got ran over by a car. Anyone should be concerned about that. But stupid friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
You know what's tough about the gym is
Everything.
Yes, but everyone's very motivated. And now to add to it, I get to see Christy showing workout pictures like Will and everyone at 4 a.m. And it's like, I'm a piece of shit.
Are you in there lifting with those guys now at 4:00 in the morning?
I'm not there at 4, but I'm there by 5:15.
Oh, God.
Probably.
Right?
It's a new thing. To be honest, it's by necessity. So this
it's
isn't
the
like
only time you can carve out.
This is not like a badge of honor. I would love to just do it at a normal time. It just doesn't exist.
Does this not count as working out to you?
It
Or
does-
it's like you need resistance and weight training for what you're desiring out of your fitness goals?
I think you need both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this does something for sure. I mean, it just does. To me, jiu-jitsu is in a different category.
Yeah.
I get a workout, I get sweat.
You get cardio maybe of a different sort.
Yeah.
It's more of like a muscular endurance, like your capacity to do work for 6 minutes at a time and then take 60 seconds rest and then do work again. But you're not, oh man, it's tough to explain. It doesn't, but it does kind of push you to muscle failure sometimes. I don't know.
Sometimes.
Somehow it is different than resistance training.
It is, yeah. And I mean, it also depends on your fitness level, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could totally come into jiu-jitsu out of shape, and it could certainly help you get in shape.
Yeah.
But I think females in particular have to do resistance training.
Oh, for bone density,
You
I mean,
gotta
stuff
do
like
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say that males, especially
Yeah.
in 2023, where most people sit in a desk and fucking tap at a keyboard, males also need to be doing resist. There are very few Tyler Stanaways out there who are swinging an axe and a hammer around all day long that don't need some sort of weight training.
Yeah, it's just mandatory. I feel like, because no matter what, your body starts losing muscle, even for guys in your 30s and beyond. If you're not building it, you're losing it.
Yeah.
And then 40s and beyond, it escalates. And so then it's like, well, you got to work to build muscle. And so it just has to be a part of. I just feel like it's one of the maintenance things that you probably need to do 3 times a week.
Do you think that Jordan didn't come tonight because I made him lift weights on Monday?
He's in an Epsom salt bath right now, just soaking.
Suck it, buddy.
When he knew you were going to talk about it?
I said he was buying another dog.
I thought you were serious when he said Chandra told you. I was like, son of a bitch, he's getting a 5th dog.
What kind of dogs does he have?
Fucking retarded.
Just little dogs or
What's
big
Yes,
the mix
yes,
with the
hang on.
husky?
The corgi and the husky, because it looks like a husky that got
hybrid.
sawed off at the knees. It's ridiculous.
Half pint, yeah.
Oh, does he like collect misfit dogs?
Yeah, sort of.
Apparently, yeah.
Look at him.
He's got, look at him.
Well, I didn't know if he was like getting
hang on.
hunting dogs
No,
or
no,
He
he,
does
has,
have
he has
really-
one really like nice,
Yeah.
purebred. It's called a Spinoni, right?
Benoni, yeah. It's an Italian hunt dog, I think.
Something.
the
Yeah.
rest
And it's-
are just.
He's fucking huge now. I hadn't seen him in a few months. That dog is enormous.
Yeah, I have 2 dogs. So I had labs forever. So I had chocolate lab, yellow lab, all American kind of situation. But they got old and passed away. And when the last one was getting older, I was like, well, I need a dog for the family.
Yeah.
And I was pregnant with my daughter. So I was like, let me get a dog that's like hypoallergenic and like friendly. And so I'd never bought like a bougie dog. This dog is as dumb as it gets. Like it's a Bernedoodle. So it's half Bernese Mountain Dog, which are lazy and awesome. They're great.
Okay.
But they don't want to do anything. Oh. And then half poodle. And it's a standard size. So it's like a big dog.
Yeah.
And it's
I came very close to buying one of those. So I'm glad I didn't.
So the thing is it's fine. Like she is like a fluffy, awesome, big dog, you know? And when I say that she's bougie and kind of dumb is that's what she is. Like she's just whatever. Like she's not a dog, you know?
I think it's that poodle side.
Yes.
Because I've friends have Labradoodles, and it has that kind of, not arrogance to them, but a little bit of a Barbie.
A little sassy. But the Bernedoodles, like the Bernese side, I think mellows her out. So I'm not complaining, but she is a bougie dog for sure. And then I have my junkyard dog. So I found him on the side of the road when he was 5 weeks old, and he is a Mastiff mutt. And I rescued 4.
What's his name? Rocky?
Rocky. Yeah, he's my junkyard dog. Yeah. He's 150 pounds and big baby. And I rescued 4, I think, from his litter. More than that, because it was this crackhead lady selling them on this concrete in the middle of December. It was really cold. And it was over by the Starbucks parking lot. And so I was driving to go to Starbucks, and this lady has a playpen with these tiny puppies on the concrete. And it was probably 20 degrees. I was freezing. Yeah. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, and so I get out and she's sitting in a lawn chair. You know, it was like that situation.
Smoking a cigarette. What's up,
honey? I was like, what are you doing with these puppies? You know? She's like, they're for sale for Christmas, you know? And she's like, and I was like, they are too young. Because I knew, because we'd had lab puppies. And so I knew, like, I was like, these puppies are too young. And she's like, well, they're 5 weeks old. They're old enough. And I was like, holy crap. They were freezing. They were like covered in grossness. Yeah. And she was just trying to make a buck, you know? Yeah. So I was like, listen, she probably had 10 of them. I was like, I will buy all of them. I was like, how much do you want for all of them? And she's like, I don't know. You know, I think she was planning to what? I was like, I'm going to go to the ATM, which was right across the street. I'm going to be right back. So I maxed out the ATM.
Ends it with fucking 10 dogs.
I came with $400. That's all that I could get out of the ATM. It like maxed out for some reason. And then I was like, I will have all of these dogs. And she's like, no. So she's like, you can have 4. And I was like, what? Because it was Christmas time. She's like, I got to pay my taxes. Bullshit, you got to pay your taxes. So
I'm selling bootleg dogs out here.
Yeah.
I need to pay. The IRS is on to me.
It's not even tax time. Isn't it April 15th? I know. Christmas.
Yeah. So she gave me 4. I gave her $400. The ATM ate my card because I was so like worried about the dogs and didn't have my card anymore. So I like put the whole thing on my Instagram story, went home with these 4 puppies in my lap, you know, and then my friend saw it, went back and got the other ones. So she got 4 or 5, and I think we got most of them. And so then we had to raise these baby puppies for like 3 weeks. It was hell. Yeah, it was hell because that's the worst time. Like 5 weeks. Still got
to bottle them?
Yeah, we didn't have to bottle them, but they were babies. Like they cried. They were too young. And so, for a couple weeks, we raised them. They almost ruined Christmas. they literally almost ruined Christmas. And then we found them all homes. Tyler has one. Tyler's dog.
Freya or Moose? Freya's. Oh, no shit.
Freya's one of the puppies.
Freya.
Yeah, really? Freya's one of the puppies. That's Rocky's sister.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, now I wish I had one.
Yeah, they're cool, but Freya's much smaller than Rocky.
Is she?
Freya's
a perfect dog.
Yeah, she looks like a lab size, but Rocky looks like a Mastiff. Like he's a big dog. He's not as big as Moose, but yeah.
I love that junkyard dog just because.
Well, hang on. What I was gonna say is that reminds me that these days, and Steve, my friend that I'm staying with while we're going through this divorce, he just got a new lab puppy, and he's talking about he had to drive down to Tacoma and pick it up, and it's like this big process, and it's like, I remember being a kid, and the way we ended up with a puppy is we were going grocery shopping, and there was somebody sitting at the entrance to the Safeway with a little swimming pool with like 6 puppies in it, and they're like, free puppies. Yeah. And you're like, Dad, can we take one home? And, you know what I mean? And like, that's how you ended up with the dog.
Yeah.
And this, I don't know at what point in modern society, like it changed to where now you have to go find a purebred dog and a breeder and pay thousands of dollars and all this shit. It's like you used to just accidentally come home from Safeway with a new puppy.
Or even adopting them.
Yeah,
a lot of times
at the
they're
Humane
like,
Society.
it's $500 and then they want to do an interview. And it's like, this dog lives in a
Same
cage.
thing. Yeah. So my parents took in this is 20 years ago. She was a half shepherd, half Malamute. And they live on a 200-acre farm. And the people at the Humane Society were like, well, we need to come check out your place, make sure that it's acceptable. And it's like, you have her in a cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have 200 acres.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and do the mental exercise right here at this desk, because no matter what you say, she's better off on our 200 acres than she is in your cage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're so full of themselves that they actually think they need to come out and do a survey. So we agreed to it and then took her home and then told them to fuck off. You're not coming to our house.
It's probably just because of people fighting dogs and stuff. I'm sure they've had enough of people who are just doing
Is
the
that
wrong.
really a problem up here, though?
It's a problem in the South.
We went to...
Do they want random mutts, though, or don't they want, like, bred?
They use them
It's all
for bait.
pit bulls.
They use them for bait.
No shit.
It's worse than trying to train them to be fighters. They train them to be bait.
Man.
Sad.
We went to the animal shelter in Austin, Texas, and all it was pit bulls. It was like no other breed except for people just abandoning pit bulls. What I was going to say, though, about my junkyard dog, I got a pit bull, too, and he's a big boy. He's like 95 pounds. But I love their big...
95 pounds of muscle or 95 pounds of tacos?
No, he's pure muscle.
Yeah.
He's a big boy. But he's got that big junkyard dog jowl. I love playing with his cheeks and his lips. Nothing brings me more satisfaction than just, just playing with his big sloppy face. I love him.
Yeah. I think Bonnie gets a bad rap because of the big gap between Bonnie and Rocky. You know, like Bonnie might not seem so bougie if I hadn't like gotten this like massive mud off the side of the road.
Yeah.
And then she'd probably be like much more like normal. But they're so different that it just, but what you were saying is like Bonnie's great. She was $3,500 from a Bernedoodle breeder, that pregnant me thought this is a genius idea.
This
like I got to have the hypoallergenic perfect family dog that's chill and listens and can be trained, and let's spend $3,500 on a dog or $400 from the ATM to pay the crackhead.
Yeah.
She's got to pay her taxes.
That's a good move, Christy.
Yeah.
You gave those dogs all good lives.
It was impulse.
And your friends getting them, too.
Yeah.
Like some crackhead lady. Who knows if they didn't sell what she would have done.
She probably would have dumped them.
She would have smoked them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a wrap for those dogs. So.
Jeez.
I knew a girl that she liked a particular type of kitten or cat. It was called Burmese, and she would go down south, and she would pay like $4,000 for one cat. And it was cool because the cats were bred to be very affectionate, and they were dog-like. You would throw crap, and they'd fetch it for you. It's kind of cool, but it was weird. It's weird what people will pay for certain traits in animals and stuff.
It's funny.
So I had a really good friend right after I got out of the Army, and he had one of those. And so I bought my first house in like 2000, I don't know, 4 or 5, somewhere in there. And I was like, and it was kind of out in the woods a little bit. And I was like, hey man, just move in. You don't have to pay any rent. Like, save some money, whatever. I'm traveling overseas all the time. It's actually good for me to have somebody at the house, like, so it's lived in. And I said, oh, by the way, don't let your cat out because there's coyotes in the woods. And that cat snuck out one time, and the coyotes got him within, like, Sean's like, I realized he was outside, and I ran out onto the back deck just in time to see a coyote, like, standing at the edge of the light of the, the light coming out the slider door with the cat in his mouth, like, and then like a year later, I was mowing the lawn, and I hit something, and I stopped, and I looked, and it was a cat skull.
Oh my God. That's the worst.
Oh man,
That's rough.
Yeah. I mean,
but it was one of those long hair, fucking flat faced.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, I'm sure it was an expensive cat.
the cool thing is like
It was an expensive snack for a coyote.
expensive snack.
No.
lately, like I used to think like, well, that's silly, like to spend that much. But honestly, anything that makes people like happy that they're happy
If
to
you
spend
end
their
up
money
loving
on,
the dog,
that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. Like,
go for it.
Go for it. Like people spend $4,000 on way stupider shit than a
Yeah.
cat that makes them happy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, if your cat, fluffy
But
cat,
at the
makes
same
you happy,
time,
but
where are all those puppies? Like those non-purebred, come from a breeder. Like,
Yeah.
where are they? They should be out there somewhere.
yeah,
Where the fuck do you get them if they're
I
not
think
at the
that's
Safeway?
probably the argument is that people are like, why would you buy that when you could, get a different one?
I read in a history book a long time ago, they were talking about the United States, and I think it was like in the 1700s. They had a huge problem with roaming packs of dogs, and they would just, like in New England and different places, a pack of dogs would just kill people.
Yeah, revert to those wolf-like instincts.
That's how it is in Eastern Europe. So I spent some time in Russia and in the Ukraine. It's exactly like that.
No
I don't
shit.
know if it's still like that, but it was when I was there.
Hang on, we'll elaborate.
Well, I lived in the Ukraine in Kiev for a summer after I
Is that why
graduated
you
high
have
school.
that
Is
bumper
this-
sticker freak you?
Yeah. Is this active duty or before you joined the Navy?
Before.
Okay.
So basically, I applied to go to the Naval Academy, and then I didn't apply anywhere else for college. So it was either that or I was planning to like play guitar on the beach, and that was it.
I'm
That's
either
my
going
college,
active duty
man.
military or hardcore hippie.
That was it.
One or the other.
Those were my choices.
Jim Morrison,
I'm
yeah.
100% serious. Because I worked at the beach. So I worked at a restaurant on the boardwalk, and those were the two choices. So what happened is I got into the Naval Academy. They just ran out of spots for that year. So they were basically like, listen, you're in, but you have to go to prep school next year. Go to junior college. Like, we'll pay for it. You go. All you got to do is get good grades and stay out of trouble, and you're in. And so I was like, okay, but now what am I going to do with myself? So I had this summer free that I was supposed to be doing like Navy training. So instead, I decided I wanted to get out of like my universe. And I guess it was a connection through my mom's church. And the people she knew there, they were missionaries there, and they left for the summer to go fundraise, and they needed somebody to house sit. And I was like, me, I will go. And
No
it was,
way.
yeah.
And this is in Ukraine.
In Kiev, yeah. Okay. So I lived there for a summer. So I basically went and house sat. I was 17 for this family.
Fuck yeah.
How were you able to get by speaking? Like, was a majority of people speaking English? Or?
No. Everybody spoke Russian. And so because of the church, like it wasn't like I was completely solo, right? Like there was somebody.
So you had like a community.
I lived in the house, but like there were other 17, 18, 19-year-olds that I could like go hang out with if I wanted to because of the church connection there.
Yeah.
And so they would make sure that like they made sure I had food, but it was easy because it was like, in other places other than the U.S., like you can just walk and go get food.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it was like. So, so I got to live there, but there were packs of dogs. So the point of this is
In Kiev.
yes.
Oh shit.
Packs of dogs. And a lot of them have tumors because
Like Chernobyl.
Not the tumor.
so the Dnieper River comes right down from Chernobyl. And so the Dnieper goes right through
Get that
Kiev.
drinking water.
And so I remember distinctly being like, those dogs are covered in tumors. And they could just have had regular cancer. Who knows?
There's no problem here, comrades.
But it was definitely a thing. Packs of dogs. But I loved
And would
that
they
summer.
attack people?
I don't remember thinking that. But I mean, they're dogs, so I'm sure they do dog things.
Yeah.
What's okay.
yeah. Biting. Yeah.
They,
So hang on. If you head out for lunch in Kiev, what are you like? What's the common fare there?
well,
How many potatoes and halipkis do you eat?
I loved my time there. I loved the people. I loved the music, the food, the everything. And I still have friends who are there.
Oh no, hey, we're gonna drill down on this.
Yes.
So
Sure.
I want to start with food.
So it was really simple because you could just buy like bread. There was a baker right there. You could buy fresh fruit, blueberries, honey, whatever. But it was very simple. It was like slices of ham, slices of tomatoes, slices of cheese. Like that was kind of like
Delicious.
the standard.
Yeah.
Kind of like hard bread typically.
Do you ever have halipkis?
I had whatever people, and then also I was introduced because my friends were 17, 18, 19-year-olds. So we were eating like dried fish from a bucket that we got at the gas station.
See, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. So you go to a gas station, get a bucket of dried fish, because that doesn't happen in fucking Mill Creek.
Plastic barrel, and the fish are completely dried, and you just eat it kind of like beef jerky. It's like the whole situation.
Jesus. What, and is it salted or seasoned, or
I'm sure it's salted.
Fish?
Yeah, I'm sure it's some kind of
Chernobyl river water.
Damn.
Dog tumor sprinkled on it.
Yeah.
What's a halipki? Is that like
okay? So it's one of my favorite foods. It's like a mixture of ground beef, tomato, onion, and then did I say rice?
Shepherd's pie.
And rice.
I know what you're talking
about. And then you kind of form it in a ball, and then you take a cabbage and you boil the leaves, and then once it starts to boil, you wrap that, and then you put all of these wrapped little individual cabbage leaves in a baking dish, and you cover it with a sauce.
I have had that.
I've had those. Yeah, those are
some of that European food is just unbelievable. Yeah. What they can do with
especially
cabbage is
amazing. I was
amazing.
just going to say the Eastern Europeans know comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The potatoes, like the broths, like the soups are just unreal.
When we went to Berlin, I didn't know any German. I knew one phrase: Ich habe ein Barhunger. I have the hunger of a bear. And so I'd walk and ein groß Bier bieten, a large beer. And so I'd walk into the pub and I'd slam my hand on the bar and I'd say, Ich habe ein Barhunger. And they'd laugh. They're like, fucking retarded American. But they'd bring out these giant plates of sausage and sauerkraut and some sort of fried potato situation. It's just like, goddamn, so simple and delicious. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd like to go to Oktoberfest.
Yeah, that
sounds fun. Yeah. Drink good beer and eat
in September.
Cheese soup or something.
Cheese soup.
Isn't it in September?
I don't know.
I don't know when it is. I think it's like a whole season.
I think it's like a month. Okay,
so hang on. Back to Kiev.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in Kiev. Okay. Dried fish from a gas station.
Yep.
What is, like, if you're going to go to a restaurant, is it kind of the same as, like, what you would expect anywhere in Eastern Europe? A lot of potatoes, a lot of sausage, a lot of...
Yes and no. I mean, it could be different.
Cabbage, potatoes, and sausage.
To be fair, my understanding, because I spent that summer in the Ukraine, and then in school, I did do language school in Russia, and so I got to spend, like, another summer in Russia, which was different, very different than my time in the Ukraine.
Okay.
But that was in the, 2003, 2005 time frame. So like, my understanding is very different now.
Okay. And were you venturing out? Like, you're 17 years old in a foreign country. Were you venturing out on the weekends and like having 100%.
Fun? 100%.
Fuck yeah. Okay. What were you getting into?
Nothing like, I wasn't like a partier or anything. Yeah. I mean, we were probably drinking a little bit, but nothing crazy. We were more just adventuring. It was like running around monuments in the middle of the night, like that kind of nonsense. And like,
and these are all local kids you're hanging out with?
100%. Yeah.
And did you understand a fucking word they're saying? Or
they were actually better in English. So, the kids that grew up in high school, like post-Soviet Union, many of them were introduced to either speak English, German, or French.
Okay.
And so they spoke one of those. And so they spoke a little bit of English. So they taught me, things.
A little bit, like a few phrases and words.
It's funny how much language doesn't matter in those kind of seasons,
Yeah.
Like we did things that you do when you're 17. Like they would take, like just even riding the subway, it was like a crazy experience because it's stinky and hot. There's no air conditioning there. So like everything is nasty.
Even New York, they're stinky and hot. It's a subway. They stink everywhere.
And then you could die, right? Because like they just stuff people in these subways and like those trains are crazy. They're like Soviet,
don't fall down, whatever you do.
Yeah, Soviet metros, And so, like, that kind of thing is what we did.
The safety standards are a little different.
We'd swim in the Dnieper, in the crazy, in the river, and, like, just do that kind of stuff.
Like, is this skin tag now?
Yeah.
So then the dog packs, or a pack of dogs, if you hear them coming, are you, like, climb up the monument, or what? Like, what's the plan here?
I don't know. I think, I feel like I just remember them, but I wasn't, like, scared of them.
Got it. Okay.
Luckily, I feel like this was my first experience of sort of like understanding how life can be simpler.
Yeah.
Because when you're like grow up American kid, you're like, well, I'm 16, I gotta get my car and like everything matters, right? And then all of a sudden it was like transplanted into this place where I that stuff didn't matter. Like they actually didn't give a shit about like my brand of clothes. They're like post-Soviet Union kids. You know what I mean? Like they're like amazed that I had sandals.
We just got no fear.
Exactly.
They didn't care. Yeah. Like they were like, this is amazing. Like
just
I could
try
get
not to go to the gulag.
a dollar store bracelet. You know what I mean? And they thought it was amazing because at that time, again, it's different now, but that was like, they just wasn't readily available just all the time stuff. Yeah. So like all of a sudden I was like, like this is great. These people are great. Like this whole life is great. And it was just, there was these multiple moments, like beach time was like my time where I was like, oh, I could just do this. But if I wasn't committed to go to the academy, I probably would have stayed.
Oh, yeah. Shit. Okay.
Yeah. Because I just loved it.
Yeah.
And I loved the people.
Yeah.
They had soul, like a different kind of soul.
There's something about going through hard times that makes people that way. And modern day America, where everybody's just on their phone, on their computer, in their cubicle, like everybody's disconnected from, people are disconnected from society and from each other. And there is like, I think, oh man, we can talk about like opioid epidemics and mental health epidemics. And I really think that it boils down to we have 6 souls in America. And the electronics and the 9 to 5 plus, you know what I mean? Like 40 hours isn't enough anymore. You got to have 2 working parents at 50 hours a week each, and the kids are in daycare, and it's like it has killed the soul of the people in America. And I think that is the core problem that leads to the mental health and the opiate abuse.
Yeah. I think it's.
Sorry to drop a heavy one on you.
No. Because what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like, Kiev now, I mean, it's more, it's not like a farm village, you know. It's got more tech. It's got, you know, it's.
Well, it was a city then too.
Yeah,
it's a big city.
It's a bustling
that's
city.
what I mean. So, but. Even though it's still a big city, there seems to be a way that they still have a connection with the food they get, where they get it from, the people around them. It still has that community atmosphere. I feel like we've completely separated that, where if it's city, it's just city. And then if you're farmer, you're rural farmer. There's no integration of the two in going, like, it's rare that Seattle has that. You know, the Pike Place market. Like, that's how cities used to be, was little farmer markets coming all throughout the city to sell their goods.
I actually think that it's a matter of being a little bit poor, because, like, one way to contrast it, like, okay, now I'm an electrician, right? So I used to have, right about the time I was a 5th-year apprentice, a very healthy cash business with people, and it was people who would call me and be like, hey, my GFCI in my bathroom is out. I go, did you push the reset button? Yeah, I tried it. Okay, go down to the bathroom. Where's your other bathroom? Go down there and push the other reset button. Okay, we did it. Still not working. Okay, if I come over, it's going to cost you a couple $100, and I'm probably just going to push a button. Yeah, sure, come on over. And I'd go over and I'd push a button and charge them $200 for 5 minutes. And go on about my way, and then contrast that to, like, my dad kept that old school value where he'd spend an entire weekend trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with one outlet, because he's not going to call anybody. He's just not going to spend that money. Like, no matter what, he's going to figure it out on his own, no matter how long it takes. And then also a great example is Tyler's Farm, where he's kind of self-conscious about, like, he doesn't have proper fencing. He's just using, like, some orange construction netting to, like, mend one section of the fence. It's like, no, man, this is how, like, where I grew up in Omak, where everybody didn't have a lot of money and there was not a Home Depot back then. You just made do with whatever you could find. You got some orange construction netting, that's what you mend the fence with. And sort of living in that scenario of just making it work and not having an excess, I think is what keeps people grounded. And we've come to a point in society here where everybody is living in excess. And so they don't, like, they've lost the ability to sort of do for themselves, right? Like, it's easier to call an electrician than it is to figure out how the outlet works. Yeah. It's easier to call, you know what I mean? No matter what, just Just call somebody. They'll come figure it out for you. Don't do anything for yourself. And I think that leaves you sort of like morally barren. Or not morally, but...
you're not challenged. You have to have challenges.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of why we all do this stuff. I mean, everyone's like, stay hard, wake up early, challenge yourself.
Yes. Well, that's where I was going, is that in modern society, just like we talked about a few minutes ago, everybody needs to be lifting weights. I think the reason jiu-jitsu is becoming so popular is that it's a struggle. You have to come in here and struggle for 90 minutes. And you don't get that anywhere else in modern society because you're so used to climate control. You go from your climate-controlled house to your climate-controlled car to your climate-controlled office.
Yeah.
And then you go home again. And everything is always easy. And there's no fear of not surviving. Imagine living in fear of not surviving a winter. Yeah. When was I guess there are people out there on the streets right now living that way, but they're probably so high on fucking opiates, they don't even know.
Yeah.
Imagine being dead-ass sober and living in fear of the coming winter. Just not know it. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe we'll see you in May. Maybe we won't.
Yeah. Makes for a different mentality.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we evolved, and that was part of the human condition. And now that all that's gone, then that gives rise to wokeism and all this shit we're experiencing because we're manufacturing problems. Like racism.
You're not suffering real things, so you have to create an event or a bubble.
Yeah, you have to create drama because you need something to struggle against. So you go like, we come here and we struggle against each other on a map, but other people get online and fucking bicker and call each other racist or misogynist or xenophobic or whatever. You know what I mean? And it leads to all these fucking social problems because people are just looking to create a problem so they can have something to fight against or to struggle against.
Or latch onto someone else's problem. I mean, in all reality, those things are probably problems to someone. You know, like if you think about it, like in reality, somebody, like racism is a problem somewhere and all those things are problems, but the bandwagon of like, I got nothing to do.
Yeah, the 40-year-old suburban mom who's
Correct.
like,
that's what
I
I'm saying.
stand with Black Lives Matter. Like, shut the fuck up, bitch. You don't have a goddamn clue from your suburb in Marysville.
As a white lady.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, maybe they're trying to have a clue. And so that's what I'm saying. Like,
I think they're trying to fight online and virtue signal.
Possibly. I think some people are. I think some people genuinely care and are disconnected.
Human rights. There's a general, like, every person, every human rights, yeah.
So here's my philosophy on a lot of this stuff, and I've thought about this. I think I even shared it with you when, a couple weeks ago when we were hanging out at the bonfire. But, like, most people, I like to give the benefit of the doubt in terms of, like, this whole concept of, like, people following, right? Like, all these followers, you suck. Well, actually, like, that's just most people. And that's probably okay because most people just want to go with the flow, do their day, like, start to finish, hang out with their family, eat some food, go to bed, start over tomorrow. And peaceful society is built on the fact that most people are down for that. Because if most people were like, fuck this, let's start over. If everybody was like that, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so what I like to think about is, like, if most people are just, like, trying to do the thing, and we give a chunk of people the benefit of the doubt, right? And we're saying, like, they're just genuinely, like, probably just doing their best to live their life. And then they hear something. They're like, wow, that's really bad. Like, that sounds terrible. But they don't know. They're not invested in it. They're actually not connected to it. They're just doing their day. And they're like, wow, that sounds like terrible racism. That sounds terrible. I'm against that. But they're not doing it because I think most people aren't doing it because of, like, trying to cause some sort of social unrest or something like that. They're just thinking, well, this is the right thing to do.
Oh, I think it's virtue signaling. I think they're bored, for one. I think they're very bored. And I think they're trying to sort of, signal is the word, signal to other people, hey, I am virtuous and I am right in this. And they get so caught up in these issues that they don't actually understand. Like, if you are from if you are from Mill Creek, Washington, and you've grown up there, and I'm going to tell you right now, you don't understand racism. And you might want, like, okay, sure, you can say I'm against it, because most 99.9% of people on Earth are against it. But for you to interject yourself into the conversation as though you're some sort of expert and start arguing with people is fucking ridiculous.
I think also there's a little bit of it, like the fog of war, like that term. Like, remember when Russia and Ukraine happened, and there was all these things like the Snake Island thing where this Russian ship came up and the guy said, "Fuck you, we're not giving up," and they blew him up. Well, that didn't really happen. Yeah. And then the ghost of Kiev, that didn't really happen. Yeah. And you see Israel, it's like...
It's called catastrophe propaganda.
So, but that's what I mean. There's so much propaganda and stuff getting used, and the way the internet seems to have works now with social media, it's like the way videos get edited or how fast things gain traction, it's hard to really know what's happening. And like you're saying, like you have just someone that gets sent a video and they're like, look what the fuck's happening. And you're like, this is out of control. Look at these cops just beating, they're beating black people just because they want to. And it's like really giving people the facts and understanding what happened. It takes time. And we live in this time where we want people to be so emotionally based that it gets people charged. And I think that kind of tears people apart more. And I think it's kind of just it's the way the system's kind of going. And not like there's this overarching like theme to it all, but just as we get more connected and we're integrating this stuff into our lives, like we all kind of use tech. We're talking on these headphones for people, but it kind of creates just these emotional reaction storms. And I think you get all of it. You get people with good intentions. You get people that feed off of this hype and want to spread it more.
And I think that goes along with what I'm saying. Like this chunk of people that I would give the benefit of the doubt to, like you're saying, they're like, see this stuff and they're like, that's terrible. Like, I don't want that. There are also the puppeteers. There are people who understand that is how humans are.
Yeah.
And they manipulate people to do things. And so I believe in both.
Yeah.
100%. People should be held account for that.
I think social media is a tool. Honestly, I think the television was a tool up until social media and the internet. And then I think... I should say, is it Operation Mockingbird? Where the CIA, it was known at one point in the 60s that the CIA had embedded agents at like every major news source in the United States of America, which meant that the government was controlling all the news media. But back then you didn't have like that instant flow of information to where you could fact check or find alternate sources. You had a few mainstream, like you had some major national papers like New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, et cetera, NBC News, ABC, CBS, like you know what I mean? If Walter Cronkite got on at 5 o'clock and told it to the public, then that's what was happening. And nobody had any way of knowing any different. And then you have the invention of the internet, and suddenly everybody can send information all over the place at the speed of light. And so here's my little conspiracy theory is that we know that before Facebook was initiated or formed or whatever, literally the day before, DARPA, the Defense something research, blah, blah, blah. And DARPA is the DOD organization
Boston
that does
Dynamics and MIT help. That's what
I think they are part of that. Yeah. It's all the research and development for Department of Defense. So they created a program that was identical to Facebook, and I can't for the life of me remember. I'll Google it here in a sec when I'm done talking. But the day they shut down their program, the next day, Mark Zuckerberg founded Facebook. So my thought is that as the internet gave, like everybody looked at it and went, oh shit, this is difficult to control, because now every single citizen in the United States within a very short period of time is going to have access to light speed communication with the entire world. We now have to come up with a new tool to control information. And I think that is how social media was born, is that social media is it's not created by entrepreneurs. It's created as a tool to control information.
It's definitely possible. It's certainly been used that way. Whether or not it was intended, I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Twitter files showed that, that the FBI was the FBI and the Biden administration was heavily controlling whatever was released, or I should say, whatever was posted on Twitter was heavily censored by the FBI and by the Biden administration. And so the only reason we know that is because Elon Musk bought it and released all those files. I would have to assume that Facebook and Instagram and whatever else, like, does anybody still use MySpace?
No, I don't think so.
My top 5.
No.
Yeah. So I would have to assume that the Mark Zuckerberg platforms are also still controlled by the FBI. And I think he actually admitted such on the Joe Rogan podcast. Yeah. He said something about
they were contacted.
Yeah, exactly. The FBI was telling him what should and should not be posted, which is an absolute infraction of the First Amendment.
Well, here's the funny thing about social media, and I think this is like brings it back to what we were saying before, is it distorts what's happening in a way that if you don't know, which we can't know all the things, then you're just taking that as information. And you're like, yeah, that's what it is. And I remember, just to speak to like, and I know we're not like talking like politics stuff, but I would consider myself like a moderate typically.
To interject here. The DARPA program was called LifeLog. And the same day Facebook was launched, DARPA shut down LifeLog.
Interesting.
And LifeLog was identical to Facebook.
They knew the platform was better. They're like, God damn it, this government Facebook won't. LifeLog isn't going to exist.
But what I was saying is, like, I would consider myself like a moderate, different opinions on different things. But I remember when, like, we're talking about like virtue signaling and things. Like, why would somebody post something, right? Yeah. Well, remember like back when all the Black Lives Matter stuff happened, it was like COVID time too. You know, it was like the same crazy season. All the things were happening, right? And I remember the time when everybody posted the black square, right?
Yeah.
So I remember making a social media post that day about Black Lives Matter. And I'm going to tell you why I did it. Because it wasn't an issue that I spent any time investigating or knew anything about outside of just, you know, the reason that I did that day is because I was feeling empathetic for my black friends. That is the only reason that I did it. And I remember thinking to myself, and again, taking in the media and thinking to myself, you know what, you're right. Like my son, I don't worry about when he goes for a run, like what's going to happen to him.
Yes.
Like I don't worry about if he gets pulled over, is he going to accidentally be, I never think that. And so you're right. So I thought about my friends who are moms. I was like, oh my God, they carry this burden that I don't understand. And all this craziness is happening. And so like, yes, I hear you and I'm sorry this is happening. So I remember thinking, doing it, and was it virtue signaling? Maybe, but my intention was for them to know.
Do you think the evil genius of social media might be that it plays on the good intentions of well-intentioned people?
It could
be. And it uses your good intentions for its purposes. And sorry, I just Googled it. It's DARPA is Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And that is where Facebook came from as LifeLog, later reestablished as Facebook. But back to my point is that, of course, you were well-intentioned because you're a good person. And probably hundreds of millions of people reposted that black square with good intentions. But I think that's sort of the point of social media, is it plays on your good intentions. And that's where that virtue signaling comes from, is that these people think they have, like, in their mind and in their heart, they're like, I am doing the right thing. And I am standing for what's right, but they're actually being played against each other.
And well, this is why it comes back to exactly what we were saying before, why it's so important who controls the information.
Yes.
Because if most people, like giving them the benefit of the doubt, we've got our puppeteers who are doing craziness and trying to move people into whatever way they want, for money, for power, for whatever. And then you've got the people who are just living their life trying to do the right thing. And we give them the benefit of the doubt. Well, then who owns the information is actually like playing the thing out, right? Because that is what determines what happens.
Yeah.
So if you have all the information, you could still probably make a post for your friends who are legitimately feeling that thing, you know, regardless. You got like the media, but then you have like an actual person that you feel care for. That you're like, hey, I'm sorry that this is your reality. Like, I do care about this, and I don't understand it because it's not my experience. And I'm standing with you. That is good human things to do, right? Like to care about someone else's experience and try to understand it and like support them. But then if you think about who controls information, and this is not my expertise, but like if somebody is controlling and manipulating the information, then that whole reality could be wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's the thing, is that we assume that what we see on Instagram is what's actually happening in Israel. Have you been to Israel in the last 2 months? I haven't. So who the fuck knows, right? And I'm sure there is an actual war going on, but are we getting all the facts? I don't think we are.
Like we
and
said,
are those
fog
two
of
sides,
war.
the Israelis and the Palestinians, are they being played against each other? Very likely.
Yeah. But that's the fog of war. I mean, that's the confusion.
It's the fog of
all
war,
it.
but I think it's I think there's a puppet master somewhere.
Well, it's like, do you know who Martin Luther is? Not MLK, but Martin Luther, the preacher.
Yes.
Barely.
So before the Bible was completely written in, what was it, Latin, right? And he was maybe 1500s, and the church the church had all the power, right? And because if you can talk to God, you're a noble person, you should tell others how to live their life and stuff like that. And so the people could not read the Bible. So Martin Luther was a preacher, a priest. I don't know the correct terminology, but he transcribed all of the Latin into the common English or text. So the people could understand what was written in the Bible. And this was heresy to the church, because now the word of God, any man can read and interpret. And so it's an interesting parallel of how people that have information, or what they consider information or power, don't want it to be seen by everyone. They want to control it and disseminate certain pieces to people to get them to go with the narrative or to follow along. I'm not saying that's what happens, but it's an interesting play of power and how people harness it, use it, fuck other people over to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes, like, again, the war in Ukraine and Russia right now. Why is it that
it's over with, though? Isn't it done now?
I don't think it's over.
Yeah,
It,
right.
it ended.
We're
it
focusing
ended.
on
Israel.
Yeah.
It ended.
Well, no American, or at least no Western media station will translate what Putin says in his speeches. Wouldn't you want to know what the opposition is saying? And why won't they translate his speeches? Have you ever wondered that? Like,
I've never.
He's addressing his nation. I would like to know what he's saying. Why won't CBS or NBC or Fox or CNN or MSNBC, why won't they translate that speech and play it?
Well, does everybody have access to it? I mean, other people speak Russian.
I have tried to find his speeches translated on the interwebs. I can't find them.
But I mean, you found them in Russian?
No, because I was searching for an English version. So I'm not even sure if you could find them in Russian. But I'd be curious. I would like to hear what's being said in Russia. I'd like to know the other side.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Even if you're staunchly against Russia, I'd like to hear what the enemy is saying. That seems like a valuable piece of knowledge.
A couple minutes ago, when we were talking about all the BLM stuff, do you think all those riots would have happened if COVID wasn't happening at the time? I always think that everyone
because they started in like 2016 in Ferguson.
You had the Ferguson stuff, but then throughout that, there was other people that were killed. Like the George Floyd thing was a little more egregious. Like, as a jiu-jitsu practitioner,
it has
watching,
just very recently been acknowledged that he died of a fentanyl overdose. Like,
well, he did fentanyl. He did a speedball behind the wheel. Isn't that why they pulled him out?
I don't. But it was. The coroner report was, I think, recently corroborated by a second opinion or so, that he did not die of suffocation. He died of suffocation due to a fentanyl overdose, not due to pressure on the neck. Yeah, exactly.
Also, as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, it was just bad form, right? But do you think those riots would have happened if everyone wasn't locked in their house? I mean, everyone only had one thing to do, and it was make pasta ziti recipes you saw on Instagram and follow what's culturally happening. Everyone was locked in.
A lot of those anarchists are just looking for a reason to go fuck shit up.
Yeah, but it was everyone. Like, you look at those like the protests, it was white people, it was Asian people, it was brown people, it was black people, it was, and to get everyone on board like that, if everyone wasn't looking at their phone or locked at home with nothing to do, I mean, that they're like, no gatherings unless you're going to protest.
It certainly helps.
And
like, what do they say? Idle hands are the devil's playthings.
Yeah, playground.
So I'm sure it helped, but a lot. I got to think a lot of those people were probably unemployed as it was. You know what I mean? Like, my friends from the job site, they weren't like, oh, hey, you know what? We're locked out of work right now, so we might as well go downtown and break some shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure.
Most, to be honest, most of the people I know are like, fuck yeah, they're closing the job site. We're swinging by the pot shop. We're swinging by the liquor store, and we're holding up in our house for the next 3 weeks.
That was a weird time.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was looking at their phones 24/7, just waiting for updates.
Just anything to do.
And so, again, if you control that stream of information going into, like, and where does everybody look? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then your mainstream media. I mean, so if you're controlling those few conduits.
I mean, let's be real. They had trackers for each state that you could check daily with the number of COVID cases and the number of deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like literal trackers, like a game.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to me, like, how fast things can turn in history. Like, you'd think, like, maybe the fall of Rome, we kind of talk about that a lot on this podcast. Not a lot, but we mention it. But the fall of Rome, like, you would think, oh, man, it must have taken forever to happen. But I think, like, certain things spark. Like, you look at how fast they're like, hey, man, all of a sudden police are bad. And now there's no cops. And it's like, wait, we went from a year or two ago to being like, hey, there's tons of cops. This is, we got some homeless people, to all of a sudden it's like all the cops are gone. And now it's just like there's all these junkies and there's this crime. And then it's like, we're kind of peaceful. We've had these wars. But now it's like, now there's wars all the time. And it's like you're seeing your country get stretched so thin. And it's like, it makes me wonder how fragile, like, all of this really is. And it's like, what, maybe we take it granted. We do take it for granted, and it's been very nice. But just it kind of scares me sometimes to think how quickly it could flip.
Disintegrates quick.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a theory out there, and I'm not sure that I buy into this one, that says, you listen to like the Bill Gates and the Klaus Schwabs of the world, and they talk about depopulation. And so now that AI has reached a point of, or I should say AI and robotics have reached a point of realization that this might be their push to actually eliminate most of the human population and create sort of a utopia for themselves, where there's a very minimal number of humans alive on the planet, and most of their needs are serviced by robots and AI.
Well, I hope
and
not.
Now, whether or not that's real, like, that one's pretty far out there, but at the same time, like, they are starting World War III. Like, World War III has begun, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. Like, everybody who's yelling about support Ukraine and support Israel or support Palestine, shut the fuck up, because this is the beginning of World War III. And if you're going to back one side or the other in this, you better be willing to send your kids off to war. And I am not. And I think that unless, like, we've got maybe a year and a half before we're past the point of no return, maybe 6 months.
This is a quicker one.
It's time for people to start making noise that they do not support these wars, because this one's going to be far more ugly than the War on Terror. The War on Terror was like a low simmer. This one's going to be fucking nasty.
Well, it's the globe.
Yeah.
It's a world war. Like,
What's funny, somehow we got older. Like, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because it's our generation that was at war for a decade and a half.
2 decades.
2 decades. 20 years.
20
decades.
fucking years.
But now it's like it's past just enough.
It's the military-industrial complex.
Yeah,
they. I mean, it's what Eisenhower warned us about, and it's like the profiteering of war. you dominate another country. Now you have your military bases. You have influence of commerce. You have trade. You
force them to use your U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
That's the I've said it on this podcast before, is the only thing we have exported recently, or I should say the main export of the United States of America has been bullying of other countries to use our dollar, and then we sanction and tariff the shit out of them to make ourselves rich.
Yeah. How old are you guys?
43.
43?
40.
I'm in my prime,
Me
Christy.
too. 40. So we're
Yeah,
all
we're all
basically
the
the same
same
age.
age.
So we all grew up right when September 11th happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was
senior year
our
for
whole
me. Yeah.
our whole like coming of age adult experience. I mean, you went to war.
Yeah.
I mean, I was active duty. I have lots of friends who were in combat. But then what would we get out of Afghanistan 2 years ago? 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like they need, holy shit, the cash cow dried up. We got to start another one.
It's just, it's sad. It's sad to me that in a time when we're so technologically advanced, we have things like CRISPR. You can send men to the moon. Depends who you ask around here. But you can send men to the moon. You can do all these things that used to kill people. Like if you look at just
crossing a mountain pass used to kill people.
Yeah.
I can drive to Eastern Washington in fucking 3 hours.
Or just life expectancy because of child mortality. It's like we do all these phenomenal things, but we still have this chimpanzee ape mentality where it's like we don't realize we're all in this together, and so it's like conflict. And do
you think hang on. So now I think that the whole point of social media has been to prevent us from realizing we're all in this together, because we go back to that meme, which is that the moment we all realize like we're the same, all these people like the Bidens, the Obamas, the George Soroses, they all lose all their power goes away. Their power is all implied. We give it to them. We allow them to stay in power by not doing anything.
Well, it's like Will Smith's Independence Day. Remember, he makes that speech, and like everybody comes together because the aliens are gonna fuck the whole world up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
honestly,
speech. That's a really good speech. Oh, good point.
That's kind of what everybody needs to realize, is that there's this level or this small group of elites who are pulling all the strings, and they're pitting everyone against each other. And the moment everybody just says, you know what, fuck it, we're not playing their games. Imagine if everybody just said, we're not paying taxes anymore.
Yeah, but
the U.S. government would be fucking finished in 48 hours, because they rely on you and I to produce so that they can have all their wealth. All of their wealth is taken from people like us who actually produce something of value.
Yeah, but
and hang on, sorry. I'm about to go on a fucking roll here.
Yeah.
God damn it. I lost my...
You messed it up.
Yep. Go ahead.
I put a nail on that tire. But is it the puppet masters are doing it, or is it's the actual human nature and condition that's doing it?
I think the puppet masters are playing to human nature.
Yeah, because
they're manipulating our human nature, which is to fight.
Social media has brought us closer. It does give you the ability to see people in other parts of the world. They experience joy and happiness like we do. They post pictures of their family. They post pictures of their hobbies, of the food they cook, of the things they enjoy, the music, the passion, the arts, the things that aid to a more elevated life, right? But instead of focusing on that, someone a million miles around the globe has the same problems, has the same joys, has the same things in their life that I hold true and try and live my life. It's like it's been more towards becoming a weapon where it's divisive. Instead of this thing that shows you how common you are to people around you, it gets used to prove points, or like the gang mentality or the mom mentality.
What if like this, I think maybe human condition or the way societies are set up always needs something like that.
To pick on, you mean?
Well, it's both, right? Like religion could be that way too. Like it brings people together. There's connectedness, there's love,
Good
there's
point.
help, but then there's also manipulation and the bad stuff, right? So then there's like that, but that was used before social media. So that was the thing, right? It was like, that was one of the main things for a really long time. So then you have all these things. But maybe to bring us full circle, I think that the real danger with social media is it's not that it's new that there's puppeteers. There's always been. It's not that there's new that we take advantage of well-meaning people and manipulate the masses, right? Been happening for a long time. Maybe at scale now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the real problem, to circle back to what we originally started this conversation about, is the mind numbing that's happening. And so social media may be the ultimate manipulator, but the real problem, I think, is that we have detached from each other because of it. And so now, not only are we being potentially manipulated in the same old way that we always have been as humans, but we're numb.
We're back to that cubicle scenario.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And that, that's an interesting point, because you can scroll Instagram and you can go from like a dead 20-year-old girl in the back of a fucking pickup truck to your friend's wedding in one flick of a thumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like literally, like, here's Hamas dragging a dead Israeli girl around.
Yeah.
Scroll down 2 inches. Oh, here's my buddy got married. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's some puppies, or you know what I mean? Scroll down again. Oh, here's a drone attack in Ukraine. Scroll down, like, hey, best day of my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And then if people aren't happy with their reality, then they're using the social media to escape it.
Yes.
So they're not happy in their relationship, their family, their job, whatever, their body. Like, then social media is an escape. And so then they're escaping to the phone, and it's numbing. And so I think that's the danger.
Yeah.
Is like, this is a new level of disconnected from
Kind
each
of
other.
like the porn idea, where
Yes.
it's like you see stuff that's not real reality. It's like hyped, fantasy and stuff, and then people get the expectations or distortions of this is what love or connection is. It's like the social media is kind of like, it's friend porn. That's
Maybe.
a weird way of saying it, but you know what I mean? Like, this thing that you think brings you closer together, and this is what life's supposed to be like. I'm looking at their pictures. They're living the best life. I should be living my best life. Now I go to live my life, and it's like, well, it doesn't feel like it did online, You're kind of numbed from it because you're seeing all these other heightened experiences. But life is kind of bland sometimes. That's what the point of life in being a unique or an
it's mostly
extraordinary.
kind of bland.
Yeah, that's why, like, extraordinary people, you meet them and you try and stick with them, because it's like life is usually mundane. You're doing something out of the normal, and that grabs my attention.
Mm-hmm. This is the least connected I've ever been from my phone since phones have been a thing. And it's been intentional.
I was just going to say, I will find myself in like slow moments at work reaching for my phone, and I'm like, I'll open it up and I'm like, why did I do that? What was I going for here? And so it's now that I've realized it, I catch myself and I'm like, shit, let's turn the screen back off, set it aside, and either find something productive to do, or honestly just sit here with your thoughts for a minute and kind of filter.
See, but then
process.
it's like there's no one telling you how to use it.
A lot of people probably don't get that moment of like catching themselves. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I've got 3 free minutes. Oh, let's open up my phone and scroll, whatever, Twitter or Instagram or whatever.
But that phone can be a powerful tool. Like,
oh, I agree.
You couldn't-
But honestly, having a little bit of self-awareness and saying,
Yeah.
you know what? Just because I have 3 free minutes doesn't mean I need to look at my phone right now. I can kind of kick back and.
I think the phone's okay. It's the apps through which, or the things you do on your phone. I mean, Jesus Christ, you could look up, learn quantum physics, or you could look up language, or you can listen to books. But most of what's easier to kill those 3 minutes is not engaging to your brain or to stimulate you. It's that numbing of just escape. And so where our phone is actually a tool, everyone just uses it as an escape pod from their daily life and their reality to check out, just to feel, I'm not working, I'm doing something right now. That it's a little bit of pleasure. I'd rather be sleeping.
Yeah, I think, because people have said many times, oh, like, you shouldn't go look at your phone before bed, and I never really cared, to be honest. I was like, I'll do what I want. I like scrolling and then I'll fall asleep.
Yeah.
And it's in this season that I've created buffers before I go to sleep intentionally so that I can have a routine for bed on purpose, like not just like a brush my hair routine, but like a mental routine, like a mind body routine.
Decompress.
Yeah. And I've intentionally been like, okay, phone is done. Like I'll look at it for the last time. I'll make sure my alarm's set and I put it. And then I have a good buffer, like probably 45 minutes. I've never had that before.
That's good.
And then in the morning, it's the same. Like I have a morning routine now. I've never had that before. I mean, like I've always got up and go to the gym and stuff like that. But like an actual time that's dedicated for me in the morning, never had that. And I don't mess with my phone. Like I might tap it just to see the time. But what's been funny is it was hard at first. I would actually keep my phone near me because I wanted to like have it soon. And then now I will go all the way till I walk into the gym and I haven't opened any of those apps. And it's kind of amazing how that's working because I work from my phone. So I mean, my nutrition and fitness company is online. So everything I do is on social media. So in the middle of the day when I'm working, I'm on the phone the whole time. But what I've noticed about like what you were saying and even the escapism is that 2 to 3 minutes, right? Is that when I'm not happy or I'm discontent or something's hurting or something, I definitely want to be in my phone. So if I'm like in an Uber and I am feeling not like something, I'll want to scroll my phone. The last thing I want to do is talk to the Uber driver, you know?
I was just going to say, if we're in an Uber, we're fucking hammered drunk. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But I've taken it like for travel, you know, sometimes I'll end up. But so the thing is like now I've all of a sudden just started, I mean, still.
I like talking to the Uber drivers.
Yeah. I'm still on my phone, but there's been times where I catch myself where I'm like, I could just disconnect from all of you. We're in a waiting room, maybe at the doctor's office or something. Yeah. And I don't want to talk to any of you because I don't want to because me. So I disconnect and I just start scrolling because that's better.
Yeah.
Or you don't. And you just look around. Yeah. And like you see people and you can see their eyes or you can see what's going on. Or you can see what's happening with the people over there. And that is new. And that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people watching is fun. And actually, sorry, I'm going to cut you off for just a sec. Because both of you guys were at that breathwork clinic like a month or two ago. And that was something that I don't know how I probably got onto Wim Hof just bullshitting with Greg or whatever. And he has a very simple, it's his most rudimentary sort of process is it's a three times 30 breaths, doing it correctly. And it makes you tingle all over and you go through some breath holds and it probably takes 10 to 12 minutes. And at the end of it, you feel so fucking relaxed. And to your point, Christy, that you're sort of entering a new season. I'm doing the same. And I've been making a point of every evening before I go to bed, making a few minutes to just go through that very basic routine. And that is what puts me to sleep and like kind of clears my mind and sets me straight, really. Mm-hmm. And I definitely recommend anybody listening to this who doesn't know of Wim Hof to sort of start doing your research, maybe read his book. But at the very least, you just go on YouTube and search like Wim Hof breathing, and it pulls up a video that literally like walks you through that 3 reps of 30 breaths and a couple of breath holds at the end of each rep. And I'm telling you, it can really like change your mentality.
A good indicator for me of how your phone like just lets your mind wander and you're not really accomplishing anything is like once a year I'll be like, you know what? I need to start reading before bed. I'm going to get 10 pages every night before bed. Dude, I make it 2 sentences in.
Yeah.
And I mean, but you're not getting all that stimulation. Yes. And
reading a real book at bedtime is the best.
Yes. So. It puts you right to, so when I get in those modes, it's like, I'm not accomplishing any reading. So you're like, make it for the morning. And it's a very good way to wake up and stimulate your mind and kind of get it going.
Yeah. I'm about to urinate in my gi pants. Should we take a short break?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Cruising altitude, Mike.
Pee break. Both.
Okay. We're talking about Christy's trip to Kiev and the evils of social media.
Hang on.
But then I want to talk about what we're bullshitting about.
I want to talk one
mic.
more thing
Yeah.
about Kiev.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thinking about myself as a 17-year-old, everything is so exciting and fun, but I'm halfway around the world. I want to find me a little Kiev girl with an accent. Did you find romance?
Did I find
at
romance?
17?
It's so funny that you say that. I think there was someone that nothing ever happened, not even a kiss, but it was definitely somebody that of course.
At 17, someone winks at you and you're like,
course.
oh my God. She loves me. We're going to get married.
Yep. Yeah. No, there definitely was somebody. But again,
Ukrainian?
Uh-huh.
With an accent.
Well, yeah, he didn't speak
did
a lot
that
of
did that
speak
make
any
it?
English.
It always depends on the accent in my mind, but in general,
Not like a harsh, nasty,
I don't think all accents are created equal.
No.
But yeah, that's funny that you asked that.
Yeah,
a little 17-year-old love interest.
Because that was always the thing. You go on vacation, I remember as a kid, and it's like,
summer.
15, 16,
Every
go to
movie.
summer.
Go to summer camp, fall in love. Yeah,
And and it was just so, like, to think of going at that age halfway around the world, it's like, God, it would be fun you're just so full of energy, that life force, just everything's still new and exciting. It's like the person that's been through their fifth marriage, it's like they don't get as excited meeting that person. So I kind of wondered if,
it's even funnier is like, okay, think about going to summer camp and falling in love for 4 days. Where is that girl now?
Yeah.
Do you even remember her name?
I mean, I didn't have a lot of summer camp loves. Did you? Did you have a lot of summer camp?
We had all of them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right there.
Oh, dude, that's where that's why this explains a lot, dude.
And we're talking all of like a lot of holding hands.
Yeah. But
I never even kissed one of them.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the difference between you and I. But summer camp was not it. But it was like, I don't know, like
this is like 4th grade, 5th grade YMCA. Or no, this must be middle school. It's got to be
middle school
YMCA.
is where it starts.
Every
to take
good
off.
movie about that is middle school.
Yeah. But it was a fun time.
Do you think the Sandlot kids are elementary school? Or were they middle school?
They were like 5th grade, I think. 5th or 6th grade.
Going
right
there, going into it. Because 6th grade.
6th grade. Yeah, 6th grade is where like
sometimes.
Yeah, so Nathan is in 6th grade and he will still I'll be like, yo man, what's up with the cute girls at the school? He's like, there's none there. No, I'm not even it's like I finally got him to admit a little bit, you know what I mean, that he likes a few. And it's like, dude, why is this such a big deal?
Yeah, but I also think it's like being in that group setting, like it kind of affects other people. You know how they say when women are all together, they cycle and hook up together? I feel like when you have that many boys and girls, like it's like 6th grade into 7th grade in like that second month of school, and just it's like one guy goes into puberty and then two girls go into puberty. It's like, like everyone just goes off.
It's like a chia pet.
Yeah, and I feel like it really drives like the group collective, and then that middle school. That's why that's when you started having dances.
Yeah,
and it's like it's about to get X-rated.
So
over here.
It's funny because middle school for me.
Hang on, were there dances in middle school?
Yeah, it definitely was dances.
Fuck, I don't remember.
Definitely.
So
I remember the high school ones.
Growing like in elementary school, I know some girls say they're a tomboy, but there's tomboys and then there's like short hair, dressed like a boy tomboys, which was me, right? Yeah. So like big giant, jump rope for heart t-shirts and like the big, and here's the thing, like, so this is why I'm sharing this, because the funny middle school time frame is, so I had plenty of friends because I was good at sports and I liked baseball and stuff, but I dressed like a boy. I had a boy haircut. I wore like crazy homely clothes
that I just throw a wrench.
Whatever. And so boys did not like me like that.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? Like they liked me, but they didn't like me like that.
They wanted you on the dodgeball team.
They did want me on the dodgeball team. I was good at dodgeball. Yeah. And so like that's the thing. So it's funny because I kept this. And my brother is 2 years younger than me, but we look a lot alike. And then we looked like twins. And I played baseball, boys baseball, until I was 12. And so
What'd you play? What position?
Third base, second base.
Okay.
Shit. Yeah, either way.
Hot corner. And
I was like good at sports, again, pre-puberty, like boys sports. I played, and so then so it's funny. I was the only girl in the league. They would be confused and was like, is that a boy or a girl? I could hear it behind me when I'd be at bat, But I went into 7th grade with that short haircut. When all that, whatever you were popping.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden one day I was like, I am not cool.
Yeah.
And again, I was fortunate enough to be, like I didn't feel isolated or like a person that I had friends from sports, but it dawned on me. I was like,
but you're conscious of the other sex. I think that's a very good point because, like, I was as a kid,
and also just your social role amongst your own sex and your friends. Like, I know exactly what she's talking about. There is a moment where you become self-aware because elementary school kids really aren't that self-aware. They're just sort of like
you kind of get who's cool and what's happening, and but you only care about it from for me it was the boys around me, what they thought of me, and I imagine it was kind of the girls caring about the girls around them. People seem more paired off. But when it was like 7th grade, I 100% hear you where you're like, oh my God, it's 7th grade and none of these boys are looking at me. What the fuck? And that's when I started to feel it too. It's like, hey.
That's a weird, hang on. You ever think about that transition from like 5th grade, I got a pocket full of G.I. Joes and some matches, and I'm going to go set some shit on fire. To like 6th grade, you're like
boobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're worried about what everybody thinks of you. And how the girls, you know what I mean? Maybe that's the beginning of the ego, like that. Sort of like idea.
But you're also awkward too. Yeah. This time
because you haven't formed. You're like, oh shit, what am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to be?
It's interesting because. I mean, teaching kids class and knowing people, I mean, everyone's got kids here. Well, except for me. But I'm saying everyone else in front of me has kids.
The other 2 people.
Yeah. But it's
2/3 of the room.
To see that time frame, like they're getting interested in others. They're becoming very self-aware of their status kind of in the world and how people see them. Like littler kids, they just want to be around someone that's cool, right? Like Uncle Bob's the coolest, I'm going to hang out. Yeah. But when it's like, oh, does Uncle Bob think I'm an adequate hunter or that I help provide for this family? They don't think in that more of a 3D thinking.
Well, and I think there's a moment that you become self-aware or self-conscious.
Yeah.
And so I distinctly remember. So these are like the moments that really stick out when you figure it out, So it was right about that time period that other people, girls for Halloween, we just passed Halloween, would dress cute, right? They would dress in. I mean, I'm talking
Best
like still
holiday.
middle school, right? But like they already figured it out, They're the they're the cheerleaders and the sexy witch or whatever, right? Even as
in middle school?
Yeah, even in middle school. Maybe not like, the kind of, but they would still, I mean, absolutely. Do you want to hear what I did? This is ridiculous. I got
bullshit
one of those.
The clown?
No.
Hang on.
Similar.
Sexy bullshit the clown. Yeah.
Because you didn't get the bullshit till you were like 16 or 17, right?
I thought this is a great idea. Those big pumpkin trash bags that you stuff leaves with?
Hell yeah, Christy.
I cut legs.
Yeah, you did.
I cut legs out of that trash bag and I stuffed it. And I made myself this
Somebody should make a comedy movie about your childhood.
I know.
trash bag pumpkin.
Oh my God.
And that's what I want.
What grade was this?
It had to be 6th grade.
Oh, dude.
7th
Hang
grade.
on. This is about the time I think you told us that you got into doing magic shows
Yes.
as well.
And I was doing magic shows. This is all the same time
Christy.
that I just figured it out.
You barely made it out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I remember realizing that was not the same thing that everyone else was doing.
I think you really joined the Navy to leave that town.
Just
You're
get
like,
the fuck
dude,
out.
I got to get out of
What
here.
other country? Oh, Kiev? Yeah, fucking sign me up.
Well, I don't know. I that
At the airport, what is this trash bag shaped like pumpkin? Yeah, like,
it's funny though because then you care, right? So then
Oh my God.
yeah. I was still laughing about the trash bag pumpkin.
I'm laughing about all of it.
I forgot about that until like this moment.
Holy
Perfect.
shit.
you should remember that. I would love to see a picture of you with short hair as a little pumpkin
I
spider.
have short hair pictures. I have a
But
lot
as
of
the
those.
pumpkin outfit too.
I don't know if yeah. So
Little shaved head looking like a pumpkin stem.
I don't remember exactly what I did with the top of my head. But yeah, I don't. But the funny thing too is like that's so innocent. Like you're still.
It's perfect.
There's a moment that you realize. And
So that was the end. That
Yeah.
was the end of the true innocence. Is where you didn't care. You didn't care what anybody thought. You're doing a magic show and you're putting on your fucking pumpkin.
Trash pumpkin.
Oh, man. That's the title of the episode. Putting on a magic show and you're
Wearing
dressing
your
up
fucking
like a
pumpkin.
pumpkin. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you, as a mom, I look at my kids and you want them to like keep that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And then you're like, the coolest adults are the ones who keep some flavor of that, you know, and that's just who they are.
Uniqueness, yeah.
Because as a woman, like or a girl, then I remember like distinctly looking at the other girls and being like, they're wearing short shorts. My shorts are long because I just thought that was cool.
Yeah.
They're wearing short shorts. And I'm like, okay, so it's like the beginning of understanding like sexualization too, where I was like, huh. So like attention means short shorts. Or then you'd be like, okay, those girls are wearing like spaghetti string straps and I'm wearing a fucking jump rope for heart t-shirt that goes down to my knees. Like, so you're like, huh. You know, and it wasn't just the clothes, it was the dynamic, right? Then you watch them start to interact with each other, and it's like those people are doing the cool girl things, right? They're being actually shitty to other people, so that's cool. So then you like start to learn those behaviors too.
It's the first time you start to experience a pecking order. You know what I mean? So that's hard. So everybody's vying for their spot in the order. And there's people who are like, fuck it, I'll sit at the bottom. And then there's a whole bunch of really competitive people. And then there's all the flavors in between. And the in between is where it gets, I think where it gets gnarly, is because there's a lot of people that don't want to compete to the high end, but they also don't want to get pushed all the way into the low end. Mm-hmm. And so in that middle space is where there's like this constant turmoil.
Yeah. And I get I almost had two experiences because my like kind of like silly innocence of like the things that I just chose to do and who I was. I came back in 8th grade with long hair and like one of the best soccer players in the school. And so instantly changed. I instantly learned that it was how to be cool and like how to be in that pecking order. Like I instantly learned, you know, oh, this is attention from guys. And so it was like a funny thing to experience. Like
it is weird that in that time period too, I feel like I remember growing up and a lot of people it felt like did reinvent themselves. Like 7th grades, like someone was this and you're kind of like they're weird, and then next year it's like, oh, they look cool, they like, you know, they
come back with the what are those pants?
Jenkos. Hell yeah.
Oh god,
look at them, the sweet Jenkos.
One day you're a skater and one day you're not. Like there was
an ability to change identity.
Maybe
like
so.
if all of a sudden we came in and Greg's like, I'm a farmer. He has overalls. You know, no more working out.
Right.
No,
That's so fun when you're
it's
young.
hard to do when you're an older person. You know.
well, you also like you're at a point. By the time you're 40, it's less about what your style is and more about like, all right, I already own these, so I don't have to go shopping for anything else. So this is what, you know what I mean? More and more I wear construction clothes. I have to have blue jeans for construction, and I find myself like, I'll just wear my work jeans because I don't want to go fucking find a pair of pants. And so you stop caring. Like we're sort of at the end, probably mid 30s is the end of that pretense of what you want to present to the public. And then you shift back into, it's not the innocence of childhood, but it's more of that, like, I don't fucking care. Like,
Maybe that's you though, because I think a lot of people just keep up with the like.
Oh. So I feel like in
caring.
the last 7 to 8 years, I've gone back to like, this is how I do it. This is what's comfortable to me. This is what I'm not actually interested in the look or the aesthetic. I'm interested in going and doing these activities. And if what I'm, the posture of it, I guess, isn't interesting anymore.
Yeah, I feel like my 20s and my 30s were really trying to figure out like my morals, my thought like what I think is what I think this world around me is and why it is the way it is, and what are the morals and what are the ethics and what is a good way of living life and how does this world work around me. And I think now I've kind of figured that out, and I kind of feel like in my 40s and as I get older, like what I want to focus on is being good. Now that I have an understanding of like the arrow I'm supposed to travel life in, like how do I get good at those things that I do in this life while traveling that path? Like I've had all this time to get a basic understanding, but now how do I master it, you know? And I feel like that's kind of like the gift of age is like you care so much, like what do these people think? Like the younger kids, they care about what they're wearing, what the group thinks, and like you're saying, yes, and so that's what the younger years are, is figuring out who you are, why you are this way, how you fit in this world, why the world works this way, what do you think your place is, and how you can benefit from the world and contribute to it. But then once you kind of get an understanding of who you are and where you sit in this place, it's like, well, now it's about me. Yeah, that selfishness goes back to me, and now I really want to get good at the things on this journey of life.
So what you just said ties in really well to what we're talking about with social media and how it's probably disrupted in a big way that process. You know what I mean? That process of coming of age, finding your place in the pecking order, sort of establishing an identity, because that's what, you know what I mean, what you guys are talking about, where you go from Jenko jeans one day to Wranglers and a big belt buckle the next, and it's like you're just trying on different costumes to see what you like and what fits, because that's what your ego is. Your ego is a costume that you wear because, you know, it's sort of like what you want other people to see of you and how you want to think of yourself. And so what you were saying, and how you know, sort of the process by which you arrive on the back, like I'm saying somewhere in your mid-30s, you sort of arrive on the back end of that process where you're back to kind of like, I don't give a shit anymore. No. I have bigger fish to fry than like what people think of me. Oh, son of a bitch. I just went straight off the rails.
No, it's hard. Let's see. Social media.
Oh, sorry. Social media. So social media interrupted that process in a huge way, to where instead of being influenced by a few actual friends or even like maybe people you fought with in the school, like, but true interhuman interactions, now you're just being bombarded with influence from all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah,
just
stuff that doesn't matter,
and at a very fast pace.
Yes.
Just go back to where I'm talking about scrolling from like fighting in Gaza to fucking some chick sitting on a beach, right?
Yeah.
And then back and forth, or funny meme, or stand up comedy, trench fighting in Ukraine, right? So it just interrupts that whole process of just kind of finding yourself.
Yeah.
Or do you even do? I wonder if a lot of people even do find themselves, because
I don't think so.
It's interesting. I have like very defined seasons of my life. Like I spent my teens playing sports in high school. I spent my 20s fighting a war. I spent my 30s racing downhill mountain bikes. Go fucking figure. When I turned 40, I started jiu-jitsu, and I've been at it up to now. Now I'm 43. You know what I mean? Like this pattern sort of repeats. Like you're sort of just defining yourself with various activities and friend groups and whatnot.
Yeah. Challenges, circles, what it has to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, though, too. It's very rare that you find someone that's done one thing for like 60 years. You know, it's more likely you find people throughout life that's like, oh, I did this for 10 years and then this for 15 years. But to find someone that really sticks with a particular craft, it's like, is that people get bored and they're done with it? You know, is it you can learn pretty much everything you need in this amount of time, 15 years? What else are you going to learn? Or is it like people have short attention spans in that, and if you take that time, a whole life of mastering something, what does that do to that process of you and that understanding of like who you really are and how you fit in? You know you're good at this one thing, but does that mean you're you know, does your voice not count any more than someone else? Does a doctor, someone that can save lives, now, do they have a higher voice than you do? But I think understanding who you are and that it takes a village. It's a common phrase, it takes a village, but it's like you need every person in here. And what you need is every person in this tribe being as good as they can be at that particular thing. Yep. So sometimes it's about jumping around. You have to jump around and try on these different hats and wear the Jenko jeans and then become the Wrangler. But it's like you're going through this process of growth. That's all this stuff is. We grow in jiu-jitsu. We grow as children and men and into women. But it's like to think growth ever stops. I find that interesting that you ask that, because this is something I think about all the time. Like, I think about who I am all the time and like how I fit in this world and why I'm a weirdo and why I am the way I am and why I have the parents I do and why I was born in this state. You know, it's like I constantly like, how did this fucking happen? I can't get over it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did I have a point there? Probably not.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, probably not.
That's another thing that crossed my mind too. Like thinking about like, why was I born in this state to these parents? And I'm gonna take a hard right turn here, but I'm going to
say white privilege.
Yeah. Everybody who is, again, like super pro Hamas or pro Israel right now, they're a lot of times it's along religious lines, and then obviously look at the war on terror, where it's very much along religious lines. And every time I deal with someone, like in the United States, primarily Christian, right? So when I talk to somebody who's devoutly Christian, it's like, man, you realize that it was a roll of the dice that you were born here. Yeah. Had you been born in a different country, you would be devoutly something else. Yeah. And so this sort of like pompousness and self-assuredness that your God is the one true God and that everybody else got it wrong.
Yeah.
To me, that seems more and more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Also, doesn't it seem to think to me, it's more.
Hang on. I didn't want to totally derail it off of that sort of like self-exploration conversation.
No, but it's part of self-exploration.
All right, go for it.
I think it's more badass to have polytheism, multiple gods, than monotheistic culture. Like to be like, there's one God.
I want to have a god of war and a god of sex and
right.
Dude, that shit is badass.
Because I identify that more. To be like, this is one guy and he knows all. It's like, we gonna hang out and be bros? Probably not if you're the divine. But if it's like Thor's the lightning and he has a few beers and gets a little weird. This is Poseidon, he's got some cool tales about fishing. It's like, I can understand that. To me, having multiple gods seems way more exciting than having one god.
Yeah. Maybe you get to decide.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I mean, I don't know. It's interesting that you're talking about the different seasons, because I really thought about that this week. I just turned 40 a couple weeks ago, and so thanks. But I thought about the 20s being kind of like, I got to travel a lot in the military and do all of that. I had my first 2 children in my 20s and moved a lot. It was definitely maybe putting some pieces in, but it was more, I didn't know at all who I was, to be honest. And 30s, I feel like I figured some things out with my physical body. If I could like dedicate the decade of my 30s, it is to fitness, learning everything I can learn about that, and then doing it. And like getting there once and then having a baby, doing it again, like that whole journey, that's my 30s. Other than like obviously raising my kids being like a primary part of my 30s. But it's like as I got to the end of my 30s, I started to be like, what's like questioning things about who I was, what I was, my relationship. I got divorced this past year, and like all of these things, and really thinking like not like what's wrong with you, because I didn't feel sad up until that point. I felt complacent, and I felt certain things felt happy or joyful and meaningful, but in terms of the me, like that part didn't feel like it was thriving. And it didn't have anything to do with anything that was around me. Relationships, people, whatever. So it's funny because like I didn't think about it at the time. It might have nothing to do with my actual age, but it's at the end of my 30s that I was like, you know, I have done zippity zero self-work on my actual self.
Yeah.
So like in the category of like, you know, self-help or things, I've done lots of that because I like that stuff. Like we were talking about, I like to do hard things. You push yourself, whatever. Like I already liked doing those things. And so in some category, that is like taking care of yourself, challenging yourself, like becoming a better self, right? That part is definitely a thing. But like the other part, like the inner part of like figuring your own shit out and like doing any of that work, I had done nothing. And so I feel like this step into my 40s is the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Like a whole new chapter where it's just different.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the same boat. So it kind of makes me wonder if that's not normal for people to spend their 20s and 30s just sort of caught up in the rat race, and then you get spit out at the end of that 20-year block. Like 0 to 20, you're kind of growing up, and then you spend 20 years in the rat race, and now here we are starting the third 20-year block, sort of a little wiser and a little more, you know, scarred up and beat up. God dang it. Second time.
But I mean, if you're going into, like if this is the next chapter and you're in that same.
But now, sorry, I remember. Are you now just finally aware of what you're looking for and where you're wanting to go? Because I think I'm kind of like, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's sort of dawning on me that like, oh, now I know. Now I know where I'm headed.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, for me, yes, it's about where I'm headed, but it's more about like, well, how did I get into this place? And so when I think about that, even like when we're talking about being a kid and like growing up and that like coming of age and things like that, like how many things along the way have we just let go of and given up on? And then how much like bullshit have we held on to instead and like replaced it? So like, for example, like I love my job. I made it for myself. It's my business. I love coaching. I love helping people with their body and their nutrition. However, there's a huge part of me that loves the game of just helping more people, right? Like for the game of it. Like, like I helped, I genuinely care and want to help. I love this job. But like that ego part of me that like wants to help 500 or 1,000 or
I could
10,000.
double this,
right?
Yeah.
Or when it comes to business, like I'm not really a money-driven person, but I still want the game. Like I want to be that. And
it's nice to make money and do nice things.
The funny, like I'm not a money-driven person, but I want a comfortable life.
For sure. Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is that like this transitional season for me has been, I mean, it's just starting, I feel like, but it's more about like asking myself which is me and which is like the parts of me that I've just adopted to please everyone else or to play a game that is not even real or to, you know, and so it's just more of like questioning things, I feel like is what's happening. Yeah. And so the working on myself part is more of an honest, like inward look at like who I am and who I want to be, but also what parts of me are just things that I either chose or allowed or adopted and that aren't serving me, aren't serving anyone around me, and then I've just kept them out of habit or because that's just what I've always done. And it's ironic because I've taught people about this for their bodies and their nutrition forever. Yeah. Like we do things that don't serve us. Why? Why would you do that to your body? You know, and you talk to somebody who doesn't quite get it, and you're like, "Why?" Last
night was Halloween, and there's so much fucking candy to be had.
Yeah, so much candy. But you can in some ways, in my mind, that made sense. So I'm like, why would you self-sabotage yourself this way? Like, why can't? I never say this, but like in my head, it's like getting up in the morning to go to the gym is just something that you can create through different
Yeah.
behavior strategies and prioritizing time, whatever. It can be done. You can do it. There's nothing wrong with you. And so it's more helping people make those shifts, right? But like the fact that they think that they can't, they're like, sure, they're never going to be a person that wakes up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym. I know that that's not true. I can see it in that category. But then when it comes to like inward looking at myself, the stories and the identities, the things that I put on myself, I can't see it. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can't do that wall.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm not a person who does this. Or like, it's all of that. It's so funny because, again, like in the body category, that's been my last decade. And now I feel like it's going to be about learning to be a better person, like a better self, and a more peaceful person, and a more like
more true. I think true is the key word. Yeah, exactly.
But like the way you said that, there's a lot of parallels between like doing good for your diet and then doing well for your own well-being. Like we're both going for the same goal, but sometimes it takes someone showing you. And that's why I think having good coaches, good mentors, good community, having these tools around you, these people that can show you. It's like, it's nice if you can self-motivate, but it's like, cool. I'm self-motivated to build a rocket to go to the moon, but I can do a lot of trial and error, and I'm going to fuck up most of the time, and I might have a few little successes where I gain knowledge, but if I can have mentors and people teaching me and showing me approaches, right? So the more that you can hang out with people that kind of self-check in, or I don't know, just people that it is a weird thing, this awareness thing. And I feel you do hit it a little bit later in life because 10-year chunks, I mean, every New Year's I kind of take an assessment. It's like I don't really set resolutions, but I kind of always do a mental check. And it's like, all right, where are you? How are you right now? Are you making the money you want? Are you doing the things you want? How do we progress this to where we want to be? Right? And then you take it into like 10-year chunks, and you can look at what your 20s are, and you can look at what your 30s are. And now it kind of gives you a little bit more direction into maybe what you want to do with your 40s because you've had these experiences. That is all that life is these experiences. And it's like, think of like shooting guns. Like your 20s is your rear sight and your 30s is your front sight. So looking at this picture of life, you're wanting to try and line the two and try and establish a sight picture. And this is something that doesn't really get talked about, but it's true. It's like, what do you want? What brings you happiness? What is contentness? What is fulfillment? And it's a lot of things, and it's different for each person through the experiences and the traumas and the triumphs that you've had through life, but it's something that you should constantly reflect on. Did this just turn into a self-help PSA?
I don't know, but like everything you're saying is ringing true. Like I am going through all of that right now.
But so is everyone, right?
I don't know that they are.
I mean, I live a very happy, blessed life.
Honestly, I probably wasn't 6 months ago.
I wasn't 6 months
or
ago.
even 3 months ago.
You were. You just didn't realize.
No, I think I was sort of asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, but that's not realizing. Sleeping at the wheel is not realizing what's happening in the road in front of you. And it's easy to check out because life is difficult. Life is stressful. You had family. You had bills. You have job obligations, friend obligations.
Most of that still remains, though.
Right.
But I'm just saying that like
being aware of it, though, helps the whole situation.
Well, the divorce is obviously like a life-altering event that throws everything into chaos and disarray and forces you to look, like examine everything you just talked about. Who am I? What am I doing? Where do I want to go? Is this where I want to be right now? Like it really forces you to stop and look at that shit.
Yeah.
And so I am right at smack dab in the midst of it right now.
But look at like laws. Like look at the fire department. Every time they create a law, it's due to a tragedy of someone dying.
Sure.
Right? And you can say, as tragic as that is, it's also a blessing because that will stop how many more firefighters in the future from dying from making these mistakes. Our life is it's no different. We're going to make mistakes have.
The worst thing about this is it took a divorce for me to see all the mistakes I made.
Yeah.
Now, and the sad thing is, I'll never make them again.
But that's tragedy becomes triumph. Yeah. That's the beauty of life. That's why, like, the Buddha is a beautiful thing, because as he gets enlightened, lotus flowers float or start growing behind him. And the lotus flower is kind of a representation in a lot of Eastern philosophy of something beautiful that comes from the mud pads. Like the mud pits is the only place that lotus grows from. And so it takes something disgusting, but through that horrible thing, beauty emerges. You get recognition of life and self and lessons. And it's not going to be pretty. The lessons you learn through war or through life are never easy. It's always a war.
No, every good lesson learned is through something you fucked up.
Yes.
And it hurts enough for you to be like, it hurts enough to put it deeply into your conscious.
Yeah.
So, yeah, unfortunately, learning some lessons these last couple months.
Sometimes misery is beauty too.
Yeah, I think though some people, and I think the only reason I say some people is because I'm completely 100% aware that I could have been some people.
Yeah.
Just keep doing the same things.
Yeah.
And don't ever come to terms with who they are or what they want. And that could easily be because it's an easier choice.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
That's why the junkies in Seattle scare me. We talked a little earlier about pills. I'm not saying I have a pill problem or anything, but we were just talking about pills. But it's like, it is easy to be easy. It's nice to be lazy and do stuff. And it's like, I could see a road.
So if you have a great job that pays you a ton of money, a lot of people look at you and they're like, you're awesome. You're the dude, right? Yeah. And like maybe you have a wife and some kids and like obligations, and then you're a shell. Like, what's easier? To stay the shell and keep all of those like things in place, those things that depend on you are move the way they're supposed to move, even if they're like, some of it's shit, some of it's great, it's just not yours, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you're a shell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to disassemble all of that shit sometimes to come to terms with that. And I think like that's what's so painful, however that looks. I mean, I think some people it disintegrates into addiction, right? Or it could disintegrate into like self-sabotage behavior. Some people are just sad. Some people are depressed.
Yeah.
Some people make a shift and then find joy in those things. They don't have to disassemble it. They like figure shit out before it falls apart, and then they decide this is what I want. And then other people, I think, make pivots that change the circumstance, and some pieces come and some pieces stay. And so, but I think like it's very easy just to not do any of those things, because a lot of those versions are hard.
Yeah.
And painful.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
hang on, because you just described what I'm going through right now. And shit. 3 for 3, boys.
Boys and girls.
Yeah. It's fine.
That sort of living for other people. Like, I 3 months ago realized that I didn't really do much. I had 2 nights a week at jiu-jitsu, and prior to that, I would ride my bike 1 day a week on the weekends. But it was all just supporting everybody else, right? Like, I don't particularly love electrical work. I just do it because it paid well and it had benefits. And it's like, okay, that's what everybody needs. And then run around, you know what I mean? I have to be home this day at this time and run everybody here and do this and do that. Oh, this car doesn't work. You know what I mean? Do all this sort of like husband chores.
Yeah.
And then at some point you realize, like, just like Christy said, it's just you're just a shell, and you're just doing what everybody else expects and needs, and you have no fucking clue who you are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
And then, like, to know who you are isn't just, like, some accidental moment. I feel like that's the other thing that I'm learning.
Yeah, you're not going to get it in a moment.
Right. The dedication of the decade of fitness and nutrition barely scratches the surface of a lifetime of fitness and nutrition, but it's, like, all of that work, really, to get what people understand to be, like, the thing. So what if this part is exactly the same, but like times 10? So it's like to really actually become, at peace and authentic to yourself and true and be able to show up that way and live in that space is going to take work. And maybe it doesn't, it's like a lifetime of work. And so maybe you feel relief or fulfillment or joy or whatever, peace before that.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't go away. It's like the physical body part. People are like, well, what happens after I get there? I'm like, you just keep doing this.
It's life.
Yeah.
So then, like,
it's a lifestyle. It's not a short journey.
Maybe that's that too. So when you do make that pivot, whatever it looks like, or you come to terms with the fact that there are missing pieces, and then you start to realize, well, those missing pieces aren't the problem. Like, I'm the problem, really, if you think about it, because it's you.
Yeah.
Like, if you showed up differently, that wouldn't even be your reality. That reality is what you created.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like, we have to recognize that is the circumstances that we find ourselves in. We brought ourselves there.
Yeah.
So then when we get to work on, I don't know, and like I said, this is just the beginning for me, so I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, but to me it becomes, if you want something to be different, and those things around you might not even be at fault, right? Is it the job's fault? The job that pays you the bunch of money that, like, maybe is kind of like surface level, you don't get any meaning out of it, but it does all the things, right? Like, is it the job's fault that you're not happy with it?
Yeah.
Because the meaning isn't in the job anyway. You could be happy and be making a ton of money, like from a job that's surface level and does nothing.
Yeah.
The problem is there's something missing, or some work that you haven't done, or some piece of it that's like not there. So that's why the job sucks,
Yeah.
Or maybe the job does suck, and you're doing it and you don't like it. Like, that's even worse, right?
But then the other thing I've realized is that I could give a shit about the job, but I work with like 4 or 5 of my best friends. And so I've sort of started reframing it as, instead of I need to get up and go to work, like, I'm going to get up and go hang out with my buddies.
Yeah.
And a totally different mindset in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't mind sharing this. I mean, I don't know, but part of me getting divorced was staying in something that, because my ex-husband's a nice man. He's a good man. He always did a good job taking care of us. Military, gone a lot. So that did not help our relationship, but ultimately, like,
no, it crushes. The military crushes marriages.
And I mean, we spent 10 of the last 15 years apart. So if you want to know how divorce happens, that's how it happens. You grow apart, you live apart. But what I'm saying is that although we did not have that, in my eyes, that connection, that relationship that we needed to have a happy, fulfilled marriage, and maybe it's the military for keeping us apart from most of it, but we didn't have that. But I did not want to hurt him. I did not want to disrupt him. I did not want to disrupt the family. I did not want to cause pain. Yeah. And so I could have stayed in that much more comfortable situation in which everybody thinks, oh, she's in a happy marriage, and how do they do it? Like, military families get a lot of accolades for that too. Like, how do you do it? Easier to stay.
How do you hang in there?
Yeah, easier to stay for sure, times a million, than to be like, oh, I'm not happy, let me disassemble my life.
Yeah. Throw a disruption into everything. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But it's like, well, what suffers most? Does a marriage suffer more, or does someone inside suffer and get depressed? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, at a certain point, I think all people have to be guilty of themselves, like, take themselves first before everyone else. I know it's so stupid and cliche, but it's like, how are you going to help someone else if you can't help yourself? But it's very true, because if just doing this podcast, it's like, you want to do it Thursday? And it's like, yeah, let's do it Thursday. And it's like, oh, actually, I'm not going to show up. I can't do it. Jordan. Yeah, he's addicted to pills. He can't do the podcast, right? Yeah, right? So it's like, well,
I thought it was gay sex on Wednesday.
Well, that's what you do after the pills.
It's pills and gay sex.
Was it anal nitrate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun time, though.
Yeah.
But he's getting another dog.
He's got 4 dogs.
Yeah.
But this takes it back maybe again to the evils of social media, to where people are so bombarded by what they think life is supposed to be, Like you open up your Instagram again and it's like, oh, this is what happy life looks like. And I kind of arrived at the conclusion that the more people post about how good their marriage is, like if someone's constantly posting about how much they love their wife or husband, their marriage probably is not going well. And so the harder people front on social media, the more I think they're trying to make up for actual shortcomings in their own life. And I think that's what social media has, another one of the evils it's created is this sort of like, well, we'll just create this fake life of pictures and captions, and we won't actually put time and effort. You're putting time and effort into likes instead of time and effort into each other.
Yeah.
And it's escape. I mean, when we were talking about escapism, if you think about, say, 10 years ago for either one of us, maybe there was something wrong. Who knows, past trauma, whatever. We have something wrong, right? And what if at that moment you had addressed it or I had addressed it? How would we have shown up differently in our relationship? It would have been different, 100% for sure. Yeah. But if you've got whatever you've got inside, and then you show, if you're having distance or disconnect in a relationship, well, then the easier thing is to disconnect. Yeah. So it's easier to like put that attention somewhere else. And so now it might be social media, but it also could be a job. It could be like working on stuff. It's like, well, like, let me escape that instead of booze, deal with the issue. So it's like you look back and it kind of makes you regret because you're like, had I worked on my shit 10 years ago or something, that relationship could have come out different. Yeah. But that's not how it works. Like you were saying, like at the end of the day, you don't learn until you learn.
Yeah.
And so
tragedy's beauty sometimes.
Yeah. But now I've started to realize that, and maybe it's just becoming more aware, is that there are people who are unaware and don't care, right? They're not worried about it. They don't care about being better in any category, really. They're just doing their thing.
Sleep at the wheel.
Sure. And then there's the people who are suffering, and they haven't started maybe either journey, either taking care of themselves on the inside or taking care of themselves on the outside. It could be either or it could be both, and they are suffering, and they're in pain. And, like, that is my new realization, is, like, those people walking around who are carrying these like loads, whether again the body stuff or it's this inside stuff, that is the people that I care about now.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, like knowing what that feels like, I'm like, oh, if I could just relieve a little bit of that for somebody in any category, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about it tonight, but we will in the future at some point. And like, coming to the realization that I have PTSD, like just in the last month, it really is at some points. It's like a rucksack you can't put down. It's like a 75-pound pack, and you can't take it off. And I said for 15 years, it's not me. It's not, I'm good. I didn't have any. I can't point to one particular event that would cause it. Like there was no one traumatic event. But we did live under constant fear of death for long periods of time. And I actually, I went to a vet center counselor, and she had me add up the amount of time I spent actually in war zones, and it's like over 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So over 4 years of time in country. And never was I in a unit that was hanging out on the base. Like we were daily fucking running in the red. And so, like, just living under that level of stress and reaction, and I'll it's all very raw right now, so I'm not going to tell all the stories, but some of the realizations I've had in the last couple of months are just fucking wild. And to Christy's point, I think there are a lot of people just walking around with that big ass 70-pound pack on, and they just don't know how to take it off.
Yeah.
I think that's, and sorry, Mike.
No, go.
I think where I'm at right now is I'm starting to figure out how to take it off.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like all of this is stress, right? Post-traumatic stress, stress of life, stress of family, stress of just your own personal thought and development and where you should be. But it's like, stress is like an engine to me. It's like it's revving up the RPMs, right? You get so like it just wears you out and everything's going so fast. And when you do maintenance, you have to shut the engine off, you know? And I think it's hard for people just in life to kind of shut the engine off and take an analysis of what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know any other way to put it, but people have to take time for themselves. Everyone has to take that whole me time thing. Draw yourself a bubble bath, and you know.
I think it's more than just me time. I think everybody needs to turn their fucking cell phone off and take a little bit of like interpersonal together time.
That's what I mean. That me time to understand and to listen to you. Like we did that breast seminar, and it's like when you really calm down the thoughts and the sounds and the influence.
Slow it all down.
It really has a very impactful meaning. And so, I mean, I've had hippie parents growing up and weird stuff, but the things that I've kind of found the most through like this kind of stuff is find stuff that puts you in awe. Like find things for enjoyment that really, like when you, instead of being like, wow, that's a crazy Instagram photo, be doing something and it's like, Jesus Christ, this is beautiful. This is what people on Instagram want to see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Do things that put yourself, or like the jujitsu, like what I get out of a 6-minute match with a person, even like we went tonight. And then it's afterwards, it's like, dude, that was fucking nuts. You're getting so much better. And it's like, you're moving around and you're stalling stuff on me. But it's like things that bring you closer, things that give you a reward. We went hunting recently and it's like, in my body, you don't have to tell me this is fun. It's like there's something rewarding about being out there and doing it. If sitting around the fire, it feels like there is something in my body that's supposed to do this. The grappling, the exercising, the foods we eat. The more you can put yourself in a stable connection, I think, with this world and the things around you that give you a sense of awe, raise the hair on your neck. I mean, that's what life is, and it helps tap you into who you are and why you are here. And it just, I guess, back to cell phones. Too much immersion, too much distraction.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to end it on. Turn off your phone. Go connect with.
No, wait. Listen to this episode and then turn your phone off.
That's why we're ending it right here.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.